Hello. So I'll just share a little bit about my background. Some of you might know that I am a weaver. I create scarves and bow ties. I take places in Dublin and I distill the story into a piece. And that's what I've been working on for the past few years. Here is Belfast Lock. It's part of a new group of pieces I'm working on called At the Edge of the World. And it's special to me, which for a reason you'll see in just a second. What happens here with this piece is that it takes the surface of water the way that it is in nature, and it shimmers and reacts in the same way, changing colour in different natural lights. But also it has another meaning, and it's a place where I spend a lot of time sitting and contemplating and being refreshed and energized. And each of the places that I used to distill was somewhere special to me. And when it came to those more hidden stories, I would hide them in a different place. So on the business side, I started straight away when I finished college. I knew I wanted to start a business. So this is where I started. I made my own looms from bits of wood and got weaving. And then last year, I launched my company, and we got an investment from Enterprise Ireland, and with the help of the Design and Crafts Council and Irish Design 2015, we have shown actually all over the world, and it was an incredible year. And at the moment, I'm part of this Irish Times Startup Academy thing, so I'll be pitching next week along with 10 other Irish companies for $250,000 in a prize. So that's that. But what I want to talk to you about today is something that isn't the already known part. It's so in fashion design, the pieces that you just saw there, they're 3 years in development. So when you see something out in a magazine or in a shop, it actually started. There's a gestation period of 2 to 3 years, and so what you're going to see now is what's coming in the future. But this question came to me, and it's a question that's I've asked myself at various stages of evolution in my work, and it's, am I the active participant in the story of my own life? And so last night I was trying to summarize what I want to talk about today, and I drew this picture, which probably doesn't need that much explanation. But this is, I don't know who this is. It's a little boy. The painting is one of Monet's Water Lily series. It was painted in 1916 when Monet was suffering from cataracts. So actually, it looks very messy, but it was quite fun to draw it because his lines are all over the place, but yet it all comes together. And what I do in my experience is my grandfather was blind, and so he used to see with his hands. And I have autism, so I see a lot through touch as well. So for me, when I experience art and when I create art, the secret part is that I encode all these stories that you can only see through touch. But the question, and there's all these, and there's the other question, which is a personal one, is about a sense of play. And as an adult, there's a sense in which you look at the child and you think, gosh, that's terrible, but it's a totally natural thing to do, to see something enticing and to want to see what those strokes feel like, or what that rock feels like. And I think something that we constantly have to keep asking ourselves as creators is, where's our sense of play, and have we forgotten it, and have we forgotten to explore and to touch and to taste? And another thing, to have absolute trust in a promise, despite the fact that we can see certain failure or certain suffering as a consequence of that trust. This is a picture that I ignored for years, but I eventually drew and started to develop journals based on this. What's happening here is I had this call to work in a particular way, to work with an openness and to start sharing things that I hadn't shared before. And there's this promise that at the edge of the world there's something. It's unknown to us from our experience, but it's known to us in a promise. But when you're coming towards a cliff and you can hear the thundering noise, the one thing you are certain of is that you don't want to go over the edge of that cliff. And then I zoomed in my mind and I just drew this really simple picture. I wanted to see that man better, so I drew him and holding on to the last dead tree stump at the edge of the world and not letting go. And I don't want to be him. So I came to this strange road, which some of you might know from, it's in, I think, Game of Thrones, but it's called the Brega Road, or Dark Hedges. It's in County Antrim. And for me, this was the place I felt I had to go to not be that person. And so I developed over 10 weeks and 25.8 million stitches of weaving this body of work. And this is one of those pieces. This is called Paris, I Want It to Be You. And in this piece, if you go closer, you can see that as you touch it, there's detail that's only visible through touch. But once you touch it, you can then see that detail without touching it. So it's about opening up a language. But the problem was that you could only know that if I told you. And only those who I trusted and had intimacy with were invited into that true experience. And so there was this kind of another choice, another starting point, in that my artistic strength was that I could speak through touch, but that was also the thing that was holding me back. So I decided to give permission to people I don't know to have access to the most intimate parts of who I am, my hopes and my dreams, my fears, my unfiltered, uncensored thoughts. And I love this fun slide. Some of you have seen it before, because it's this very conscious choice. Like, these aren't, letting go of that tree stump. Like, it isn't a subconscious thing. It isn't just, you're not going with the flow. Like, the flow ends. The flow was great. This is the end of the flow. And you are faced with this very conscious choice to evolve or to remain the same. And so this page that I drew I started, I just wrote the fear of blank pages because I was uninspired, and I thought that was a good thing to write. And then I started to think about what that fear was. And I wrote, out of ruining the almost perfect ones with, next slide, because it's hard to read, basically not being able to make this choice. And I think the pursuit of great art is to go not with what's within our imagination, but to go way beyond it. And in a way that actually makes it easier to share those very intimate things. And so here's the result of that. This is called my journal series. And it's my current phase of a response to a call to create, a response to share the beauty that I discover with people without them having to know me first. Each piece is part of a pair, and those two pieces deal with this two-faceted side of this, I suppose, Christian metaphor of drowning in what God has to offer you. If you go back to the previous one, you can see this man, and in the woven version of this, we don't know whether he's diving out of the boat or has fallen. I don't even think he knows himself. And I think that's actually the place where, when we're honest, we find ourselves in submitting to, I suppose, sharing where we're at as artists and as creators. And we'll just flick through the last because I'm out of time. And so each one is part of a pair and tells a story and just finds beauty in where it might not be that obvious. So this piece here is a response to, I suppose, to terrorism, basically. And I realized when I was writing this, it could be viewed two ways. It could be propaganda for those who die for something greater, that they're a part of something bigger. So, oops. But also, it's because this image of white horses, those beautiful breaking waves in the sea, and the barbed wire like the Normandy landings, and this chaos of war. And what I loved about that Water Lilies painting is that Monet, with his cataracts, developed a symphony from a chaos of brushstrokes and colour. And that's what creation is. And that's what we have an opportunity to be a part of. That's what we have an opportunity to encourage others to notice. And that's what I want to do in my work. The last word I have to say is that we're told there's nothing original under the sun. But from where you're sitting, whatever you're looking at, if it's a natural thing, you're the only person who can see what you see. And this moment in time is occupied only by you. When I was in school, we had this motto, which of course was not very much enforced, but it was the concept that every individual is of value and has something to contribute. And I think that's so true. And so when I had created all these extremely dark slides that looked at war and chaos, I just really enjoyed doing this piece, which is about new life. And not new life, but it's about spring. It's a flourish, it's Floriad. It's called If Not for Love, and it's, I suppose, a summary of that vision, just bringing it back to the very simple, enjoying seeing a branch sprout new leaves. So, Garamila Maigiv, I guess I am done now.